Hi, in this video we talk about gratitude, what it is, how to have gratitude be real instead of some aspect of toxic positivity where you're supposed to pretend or fake it. In this video we talk about how to cultivate genuine gratitude and how genuine gratitude can contribute significantly to your sense of well-being and sense of happiness in the world. And you can experience gratitude even in the presence of things that are unpleasant. So it's not about either or. You either experience gratitude or you, this is the language people often use, are realistic and acknowledge or focus on things that are unpleasant. They're both happening all the time. And in some ways, we don't need any help focusing on the negative or the unpleasant. Our brain naturally leans in that direction. So, where we need to practice, where we need to develop some skills, is adding to the mixture an awareness of and appreciation for the pleasant in life. I hope you enjoy the video.
So, welcome everyone to this new episode of Living Now. And Frank is getting ahead, which is fine. I'm Vivian Hermes. I am one of the facilitators of this session, along with my co facilitator, Frank Baird. Hello, Frank.
Oh, hi.
And the theme for the month is living here. No,
The theme for the month is New
the
Year,
theme for
New
the month
You.
is New Year, New You. And I hope all this glitching is not a sign of what's to come for the year. But even if it is, the cool thing is we've got our practice to carry us forward. So Frank is going to move us through the next topic of discussion around gratitude. And I'll pass it over to you, Frank.
Thank you. Yeah, I sometimes think in an age where everything is becoming like really slick and professionalized, maybe we should be less and less professional as a way of reclaiming our humanity. That's just one thought. Anyway, hi everybody. Welcome to tonight. We're going to talk about gratitude. So I'll describe a little bit about what gratitude is and why it's beneficial, how it contributes to well being, and how you can increase your capacity for feeling and expressing gratitude. So, I should say this. I think of gratitude as a both and thing. I live just north of LA, and I think many of you do. So sometimes it's hard to feel gratitude in the midst of catastrophe or in the midst of like personal illness, personal injury. Um, and there's a thing called toxic positivity where people will like just smile through it. And uh, in some ways I can appreciate the intention, but the effect is no, a strong no to that. And that's because it's kind of presented as an either or choice, right? You can either have gratitude or you can be miserable because of something, and they're not mutually exclusive. And one of the things I'll talk about with gratitude is some different ways of focusing attention. So, gratitude is a feeling of thankfulness or appreciation for the goodness in life. And the goodness in life is even present when there's an abundance of not goodness. That always sounds like what they say on YouTube and TikTok, right? Like you can't say certain words, so they'll use the word like unalive to you instead of a word we all know, because the algorithm doesn't like that word. So I don't know if bad is a prohibited word or just not so good. But it's a feeling of thankfulness or appreciation for the goodness in life. And it can be a state and a trait. So a state would be something like, I'm experiencing something in this moment and I feel gratitude for it. So my favorite, I'm eating some ice cream and I'm enjoying the flavor, and I can be in a state of gratitude related to enjoying the ice cream. A trait, so there are different ways of thinking about traits, but here the trait is experiencing gratitude more often, more generally, more easily, and sometimes about nothing in particular. So that trait can be cultivated. You can grow it. And in a way, it's a trait like, what's that? There's in philosophy, the term is a priori. I can't think of a regular word for that, but right, it's like the trait exists before the expression of gratitude or the experience of gratitude, right? So, like a state of gratitude is a thing is happening, and then here comes gratitude. A trait would be I have the capacity and the practice and the tendency to be feeling grateful in advance, and so then there are more things that I tend to feel grateful for because it has an amplifying effect. There are 2 stages of gratitude. One is acknowledging the goodness in one's life. And, you know, depending sometimes like the thing or the things in your life, but, you know, goodness can be more than things. By things, I don't mean necessarily like physical objects. I mean things like anything you would point to or identify. So the first stage is acknowledging the goodness in one's life. And the second stage is recognizing the sources of goodness. That's where those things come from. Now, you can kind of, I guess you can kind of experience the first part without the second part, but you can experience the second part without the first part, because the first thing is, here's the thing, and now I'm appreciating or recognizing where the thing comes from. So by that, it's something like if someone is kind to me, I can have gratitude for the kindness. I can have gratitude for the act of kindness. I can also have gratitude for the person who is engaging in the act of kindness in that moment. I can also be grateful for, say, I'm eating some food and I'm grateful for the food that I'm eating. I'm also grateful that I had access to the food. So I can be grateful that I live near a store that's open. I can be grateful for all the people who are working at the store and unpacking the groceries from the delivery trucks and putting them out so that I can get them. Right. So it can be a present moment thing. Here's an act that I'm grateful for. It can also be recognition or appreciation of like the expansive qualities of how something got to be here. It's a skill that can be developed, and gratitude is strongly related to well-being. So Vivian and I were talking about this. We call this month's theme New Year, New You. And last week we started with the see, hear, feel practice, which are some skills for being in the present moment and noticing how you're noticing things, um, both what you're noticing and where they're coming from. And then gratitude, right? So that's like a practice around being here, which is like not so much the new you. It might be a new attitude toward you, but we have this notion that, you know, if there's gonna be a new you, start with the present you and notice what you like about you or what works for you about you. Have some gratitude for what you do have, for who you are, and again, not either or, and then looking to the future and what can I create more of in myself or in the world around me. So there are 3 parts that I think of to gratitude here. One is you noticed something pleasant, and I think it's always pleasant. Maybe let me back up a little bit. It doesn't have to be pleasant. I don't know if you've had this experience where something unpleasant is happening and it's like, I did not ask for that. I don't want that. Um, I do value the lesson that came from that. So again, didn't ask for that. Right? In a way, this is why that toxic positivity doesn't work because it's it commands you to feel like I'm grateful for the experience itself. I'm not so grateful for the experience. I'm grateful for what I learned from it. So noticing, I want to say something pleasant, though it could be noticing something unpleasant that there's a pleasant attached, like the valuable lesson. So you start by noticing. And then this is how I think psychologically noticing is one thing. I can notice on purpose, I can notice on accident. Somehow that thing came to my attention. And then the next step is like a cognition, cognitively acknowledging, oh, this thing is pleasant. So it's like there's the feeling of its pleasantness that I notice. Now I'm acknowledging and I use like voiceover for myself, that self-talk that says this is pleasant. And then the next part, different people experience the next part differently. I continue to experience things in words a lot. So the next part is there's this pleasant that's happening. I acknowledge that it's pleasant. And then the next part is for me in my head, I'm saying, I'm grateful for this, or I appreciate this, or I like this, or I like that this is happening. Or one of the things that I say regularly out loud and in my mind is thankful. Thank you. One of the things I like about the words thank you is that you can practice saying thank you, and it kinda gets it doesn't have to be specifically connected to anything in itself. The words can evoke, a feeling of gratitude. So any way of experiencing it. For me, it's words. So there's the noticing, acknowledging, and then the expression of gratitude. So it can be for a specific thing at a particular time. It can be for an abundance of small or ordinary or mundane things that go unseen or that we take for granted. I like these words, right? Ordinary or mundane are often words that are used to dismiss something. Like it's very, very common. So, you don't need to appreciate it. You can take it for granted. So I think about how things there's always a threshold of our attention, something below the threshold, we can't notice it. If it becomes above the threshold, we can notice it. We may not acknowledge it. It may still be below the threshold of acknowledgement. But here's the thing, if we start practicing gratitude around the abundance of little things, it turns out that there are so many little things that it's easier and easier over time when you practice gratitude to feel it more and more regularly, to feel it more consistently, to feel it more is more strongly the right word? I think feel it more strongly because our lives are constituted by so many little things. It's like if you're walking from your car to the store and you notice the sensations in your feet, right? Mostly we just kinda go, "Yeah, I don't notice that unless you have, like, new shoes or really bad shoes." And if you are practicing being able to notice the little things, then you got that little bit of pleasant and gratitude as you're walking to the store, as you're doing this ordinary thing, as you've got this, other goal in mind, like, my goal is to just get in there, get the thing I want, and leave. That's decidedly a masculine way of referring to shopping. Um, but there's all of these opportunities for gratitude and appreciation. And the last part here is that expressing gratitude always amplifies the pleasant. Um, the I'm not sure what this slide says. It says amplifies the pleasant of appreciation and. So apparently I had an ongoing thought there that ended suddenly. Um, but it amplifies it because now you've got the pleasant of the thing, You've got the pleasant of the gratitude, and you've got the pleasant of recognizing that you're experiencing gratitude in relation to the thing. So it's like stacked up 3, and that's over something ordinary, something mundane, like the sensations in my feet as I get out of my car to walk to the store. So we're going to do a gratitude practice. Um, Here are some things you might consider in engaging in this practice. So get comfortable, and it can be you can be in stillness or slow, deliberate movement. Your eyes can be open or closed. I'm going to provide some instructions, some things to consider. Listen to my voice, notice what happens when you hear my suggestions. Um, it helps if you establish a friendly, gentle attitude toward whatever is happening. That helps in practice because it allows us to be more open to whatever our experience is instead of like judging it or having aversion for it. I mean, you still might be judging or having aversion, to the extent, though, that you can establish a friendly, gentle attitude, you'll not only learn more in your practice, you'll probably have a better practice. By better, I mean more satisfying. So notice what's happening, and if you need to, for any reason, at any time, stop. You can always come back and try the practice later, or you can watch a video of this presentation on YouTube. So, with that said, let's practice. So, one of the things I like to do at the beginning of a practice is bring attention to my body. Notice what kind of state my body is in. Do I feel energetic? Do I feel tired? And based on those broad categories of how I'm feeling right now, what adjustment might I make to be able to engage in this practice period? We're going to do a practice for about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So if I'm tired, what adjustment do I need to make to be able to stay awake and stay practicing? If I'm energetic, is it the right kind of energy to help me stay present and practicing? Or is it more like that chaotic coffee generated energy? So, what adjustment might I make that would help me either settle down, or if you were going to practice with movement, maybe you can channel that energy in a way that it's not distracting, but that you can use it as part of your focus and settling. So, checking in with your body, making any adjustment that might help in this period of practice. You might feel the body breathing. You might feel how the body breathes on its own. You don't have to make it breathe. You don't have to breathe in any particular way for this practice. Bring attention to breathing and just feel it happening. You can use breathing to help with focusing attention, to help with settling attention. Just by bringing attention to breathing, feeling it happen, and whenever attention wanders off or gets pulled away, gently bringing it back to breathing. Just feeling breathing happening. You can always use breathing as a meditation anchor or an attention anchor. Anytime attention gets lost or you get lost in whatever you're paying attention to, when you notice, you can always bring attention back to breathing as a place to restart the effort at paying attention, place to refocus attention. Now, in this practice, you can use breathing as an attention anchor, or you can use the things we're going to use in practicing gratitude. One of the things you might do now is notice or bring something to mind that's pleasant. It can be a big thing, it can be a little thing, it can be a medium thing. And if there are a number of things that you notice or that you bring to mind that are pleasant for now, just pick one to practice. There'll be lots of time to practice with the others. One of the things about this practice is appreciating that you're practicing with something that is genuinely pleasant, not something that you're trying to make pleasant or somebody's telling you should be pleasant. This is something that is genuinely pleasant right now. It could be something you see, something you hear right now, something you feel in your body. It can be something happening in your mind right now, a thought or a memory or an emotion. Noticing something pleasant. And now acknowledge to yourself that it is pleasant. Like words like, this is pleasant, or this is nice, or I like this. You can think this to yourself Say it to yourself, say it out loud if you'd like. And now express some gratitude for that pleasant, either for the thing itself or the experience of the thing. I'm grateful for this sound. I appreciate this sight. I'm grateful for the softness of my chair. Or the words, thank you, thank you. Then breathe and hang out with what it feels like to be in the presence of your awareness of this pleasantness, of your acknowledgement of this pleasantness, of your appreciation or gratitude for the pleasantness. If you'd like, you can repeat the phrase. Repeat the phrase, thank you. Repeat the phrase, I'm grateful for this. Or feel it. And then as the image or the experience starts to dissipate, because all things change, then what you might do is repeat this whole process. You might bring to mind the thing that you were just focusing on. You might notice something else going on in your immediate experience or bring to mind a thought or a memory. And so the process is focusing attention on something pleasant, acknowledging that this is pleasant. Express gratitude. And breathe and hang out with whatever's happening for you in the presence of this experience of gratitude. And if attention starts to wander off or gets pulled away, you can bring it back either to the pleasant that you're working with right now, or notice something else pleasant in your experience and engage in this whole process, noticing something pleasant. acknowledging that it's pleasant, and expressing gratitude for this pleasant, and breathing and hanging out with this experience of gratitude. Remembering to pay attention. It could be easy to forget what you're doing or why you're doing it. So, whatever you're doing, the encouragement here would be do it on purpose. Make that your practice. And if you want to practice gratitude, focus on something pleasant, acknowledge that it's pleasant, express gratitude for this pleasant, and then to breathe and hang out. If you're interested, you might take a moment to notice how your body is configured, where it might be tense or tight, where it might feel at ease. Just taking stock for a moment, and then return to the practice. And after the practice, notice again and see if anything's changed. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, maybe it has, maybe it hasn't. noticing something pleasant. You the same pleasant you noticed before, or a different pleasant, acknowledging the pleasant, expressing gratitude for the pleasant, and breathing and hanging out with this experience of gratitude. Now, if you'd like, you might bring to mind someone that you're grateful for or grateful to. This might be somebody directly in your life, a loved one, a friend, a pet. It might be someone you don't know. It might be a spiritual figure, somebody that you know from afar through social media or legacy press. Again, if you have multiple people you can practice with, for now, just pick one or one category. For example, here in Southern California, it can be all fire people instead of a specific fire person. So, with this person or these people as the focus of your attention, acknowledge that they're here because you value what they do or what they've done. Mhm. And then express gratitude for this person or these people. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for your service. I'm grateful for you, or I'm grateful for people like you. Thank you. And then breathe. Breathe and be with whatever's happening for you right now in the presence of this experience of gratitude. Sometimes in practicing gratitude and focusing on the thing, the people you're grateful for, there's also an awareness of some things you may not be grateful for. Example, in appreciating firefighters, you have to remember the fire too. You don't have to have a both and attitude here. I mean, an either or attitude, have both and. Shift attention to the firefighter. The other is implied, and have the focus of your attention on the thing or the people or person you're grateful for or grateful to. Noticing what it's like to be in the presence of appreciation and gratitude. And for the last part of our practice for tonight, you might express some appreciation or gratitude to yourself for making this effort, for engaging in this practice, for cultivating your capacity to experience gratitude and appreciation. So if you use words, you might say something to yourself like, "Thanks for hanging out with me," or "I appreciate your attention," or "I'm grateful for your effort," or "Thank you for your heart." And to conclude our practice, if your eyes are closed, you might open them. You might move them around, look around the space you're in. You might move your head up and down, side to side. Maybe shrug your shoulders, stretch, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, yawn if you'd like. This will conclude our practice for tonight. Thank you for your practice. We now have time for questions, answers, explorations, comments. Please type them in the chat and we will do what we can to engage with each of them. Oh, apparently I'll be showing you this card now, slide now, because I'm about to turn the slides off. So next week, join us next week. We're continuing the new year, new you with re-intentioning. And with that, let us know your comments.
Thank you for that practice, Frank. I loved what you said about I loved how you broke it down into notice, acknowledge, express, because sometimes, like, that acknowledge piece is missing. Sometimes notice is the thing that we note it. We can do 1,000 things when we notice something. We don't necessarily have to jump to you can notice it and shrug it off and be like, "Oh, that wasn't that important." Or you can notice it and relish in it, or you can notice it and sometimes we can turn a positive into a negative even if we actually note it. So, I appreciated that piece about acknowledging because that kind of is a very explicit way of, um, of orienting towards, like, the first baby step towards the gratitude. Um,
Yeah, I think of
and
one way of the thinking around that, or the words that represent the thinking could be something like I notice, but it doesn't necessarily make it above the threshold of caring about it. I now have all these thresholds that are represented by my hands, right? Because
Mhm.
it's over the threshold, it got attention, but in order to feel like it matters, there's another threshold, which is that it matters, and that's what the acknowledgement can be.
Yeah. Um, don't forget to drop the slides.
Oh, yeah, let's
Yes, we have that request in the chat.
and I
Um,
have them
and
somewhere.
when you were talking about mundane things, I remembered over the weekend, I was in Las Vegas and it's a lot of walking, everything is really far apart. Um, people were like the escalators were packed going up the stairs. And there's a escalator going up on this side, an escalator going descending on this side, in the middle there's a staircase, a wide staircase to allow for up and down for people to the staircase completely empty on the side, the big screen, but people are packed into the escalator going up, and, there's a line forming, and I just took the steps, and yes, they were a lot of stairs, but the entire time I was reflecting on the fact there may come a day there will come a day, if I live long enough, that I'm not gonna be able to take this many steps in a staircase. So I was actually relishing the steps going up the staircase of this empty staircase, and I was faster than the escalators.
So you were grateful that you won also.
Yeah,
But
so
I like that as an example, right? Because I can show up to a line, especially if I'm in a hurry to get somewhere. But mostly, this is how I relate to any line, is like, that is not pleasant. And then I can shift my attention to, I'm grateful that there is an escalator if I'm going to stand in line to go up the escalator, or I'm grateful that there are these steps, because one way or the other, I'm gonna get up that hill. Now I've got the Kate Bush song. in my head running up that hill, but that's how my mind works.
So we have a lot of gratitude in the chat for this topic. Um, yeah. So, you know, for as long as we have this body and this mind, we can always find something to be grateful for.
Yeah, and I think, part of what contributes to, well-being is, if we can't notice and appreciate things that are pleasant without there necessarily being a comparison, like, that sound of that bird that I just heard isn't greater than the sound of the car wash I live nearby, for example, right? So there are lots of ways of dismissing it, but the risk is that when we start dismissing, we're going to continue to dismiss, and we won't notice that we've developed the habit of dismissing.
Mhm.
Again, it can be kind of challenging because in acknowledging the pleasantness of it, I might mourn that there isn't more.
Yes.
Um,
Listen, going up and down the steps was not pleasant.
yes. But winning was.
Even better, I was like, I'm not winning, but I was like, there was a person, I was like moving faster than the people that were just escalating. Oops, didn't mean to raise my hand. But
Well, yeah, I
yeah,
think of that as an accomplishment, right? Even just the playfulness of going, "Look at me moving faster."
yeah,
I might be breathing heavier than they are too,
yeah,
however.
and sweating more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanna, mention, so some of you have heard of a gratitude journal. There's a lot of research around keeping a gratitude journal, and, depending on your notion of, journal, Vivian left us, depending on your notion of journal, um, it can be intimidating. So because I am a therapist and I work with a lot of people struggling with depression, it's hard to feel like grateful or appreciate some things because it's easier to notice and appreciate. Well, that's well, yeah, it is. It's easier to notice the things that are making you miserable. So, so the gratitude journal, it can also be called 3 things you're thankful for, or what I do with people who are having a hard time worrying that it's toxic positivity. I go 3 things that didn't totally suck from your day. So the way it works is just before bed, you take a moment, like it can be 30 seconds, it can be a minute, and you write down 3 things from the day that you are grateful for or that you appreciate, or in my language, that totally didn't suck. 3 things that were nice enough. So you write them down and just a brief description of why you liked it. So I liked my coffee because it was nice and hot today. I liked the sound of that bird because it was very sweet in the morning. Right. That's all. And then you go to sleep. And so the encouragement is to write it down rather than just remember it, because one of the things you can do is later look at what you've written, and then that has like an amplifying effect. And what the research has shown is that people who keep a gratitude journal within 6 months start reporting to the researchers that they feel better, that they feel less depressed or more happy, again, depending people's relationship to how they're feeling and the language that they use. Right. So 6 months of doing this. And how I think of it is you're learning a new language. Like,
Mhm.
I think we're all good at complaining and noticing things that we have complaints about. And we tend to get really quiet around things that we appreciate. Again, unless they're big things, and then we go, Yahoo. Um, it's like we take them for granted. We never seem to take for granted the things we can complain about. I mean, we might say we do, but we say it in a complaint. So I think of it as like learning a language, but you're also learning to Shift your attention to your benefit. And in time, it becomes a new habit. So you don't have to like do it on purpose or remind yourself to do it. It gets done. And I just want to assure you that this does not weaken you in any way. Because I've known some people who go like, no, you really need to be aware of all the miserable stuff. You won't forget the miserable stuff. Miserable stuff is really great at getting your attention. And our brain is actually skewed in the direction of noticing negative or unpleasant things because it's about life and death. So you don't have to worry about becoming weakened this practice. You actually become stronger because you're not weakened by the relentlessness of complaints, the relentlessness of dissatisfaction. You're strengthened.
Can I share something? I walked away because I wanted to share my gratitude jar.
Oh, hey.
And in this, so what I do, because I could not for the life of me maintain a journal. Or I'd start one and then I'd lose it and then I'd start another one. And then I would find the other one, then I'd start again. But I knew that it was really important to for healing, to like manage my frame of mind. So I started this. And the way I do it is I can either if I'm grateful for something, I definitely write it up on a Post-it and I use colorful Post-its. So I keep colorful Post-its on hand. Um, and I'll write it on a Post-it and I'll fold it 3 ways so that the gluey part keeps it. I don't know if you can tell, but
Oh, yeah.
the sticky part keeps it closed like a note. And so I'll write things down like that. And let's say I'm not in the mood. Let's say I can't think of anything to be grateful for. I can go in there and just read old ones until I start feeling grateful. And if it inspires me to add one more, I'll add one more. Um, and if I just needed to pick me up, I'll just stick with that. So, an idea, because I couldn't journal, and I tried to do it on my phone. Um, it was really hard. So, I hope
I really
it
like that. And I like the notion of even if there's nothing I can feel grateful for right now, I can pick one. And if nothing else, I can be grateful for the memory or I can be grateful for
Mhm.
the post-it that has that. When Now House had a physical location before the pandemic, we had a bowl and there was a sign that said, write down like you're talking about, write down something you're grateful for, or if you need something, take one.
Oh, nice.
So it was really nice that it was in a public place and and it could be exchanged, different things people are grateful for. It's like, oh yeah, I can be grateful for that too. Or again, I'm grateful that somebody wrote this down,
You're in
right? It's
here.
yeah,
One of
yeah.
these says Frank for something,
Oh,
or maybe a couple even. That's the
uh-huh.
other thing, you need to be very specific. So you can't say, for example, "I'm grateful for my dog."
Well, you
You want it
can,
to
but
be
once, only once.
yeah, well, no, not only that, you want it to be very specific. So you would say, "Oh, I love the way my dog greets me when I come home," for example, something like that. So you want the gratitude to be very specific. And I was reading an article about how, actually offering gratitude land or receiving being on the receiving end of gratitude actually has a more profound, a bigger impact on us than us just writing down things that we're grateful for. So if you feel grateful for something someone has done, definitely express it because it actually is going to move them forward in deepen their experience of gratitude more deeply. So,
And I wanna emphasize and sincerely, because I'm sure many of us have experienced, again, what I think of as toxic positivity or just an outright lie, say in a corporate environment where you've got somebody who's just always gushing about everything, but then would cut your throat as soon as they were doing some
mhm,
downsizing, right?
mhm.
So the key thing here is that you're only appreciating things that are genuinely pleasant or the pleasant aspect of the lesson learned from the unpleasant. We're not recommending at any point there's value in this, psychological notion of acting as if, r r like, it's sort of like, I if you, don't have a lot of self-confidence and you're going to a party, act as if you do until it arrives. So that's got places where it works. Here, though, I think in the privacy of our own mind, we know if we're lying or not. And so we're not inviting you to lie to yourself. That's like the opposite of what all these practices can make possible. What we are saying, though, is that if you look, or sense into, you'll find something pleasant at some time and something you can appreciate and be grateful for.
And if in this moment you don't feel grateful for anything, that's why it's important to write it down, because then you could refer back to it at some other point. Because nobody feels grateful all the time, and there's no need to be.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I would say, like, there's no need to.
'Cause
It's
it's not
wonderful.
realistic. Yeah. Life
Right.
is pleasant and unpleasant. They're both happening all the time.
Yes.
So, thank you all for being here. Somebody says, "I found a small gratitude" oops, wait, it just moved on my screen. "A small gratitude jar at Dollar Tree. I will start using it tonight." Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, find a jar you really like, something that you know, that ca for me, it was, like, I wanted a big jar because I wanted the inspiration to, like, fill it out.
Right, and to be able to see it, right? Like,
Yeah, and I wanted it to be yeah, I wanted it to be clear so that I could see all the different colors.
yeah,
Um, so
nice.
whatever works for you, find that thing and do it.
So thank you all for being here. Join us next week. Vivian will be leading us in re-intentioning. I don't know if, because I don't know what you'll be talking about next week yet, but I'm thinking right about now is when research says people who made New Year's resolutions, have stopped. So re-intentioning is well timed.
We'll talk about habits and re is yeah, intentions and re-intentions.
All right. You may have noticed also, like and follow us on YouTube. I got last week's video up. I forget if it was either yesterday or today, but I am so happy with this new workflow and editing software. So we'll have these up on YouTube sooner. And if you like and subscribe, and what else do they say? Oh, turn on the bell so you'll get notified.
Smash
But
that like button.
that's right. Smash it. All right. Thank you all.